News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilbert with darkhookmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian, and here's one for you, Allan. Happy National Short Film Day.
Okay, short films.
It's to commemorate the anniversary. Well, I won't tell you.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. I wonder if YouTubers count on this, on that play.
They do.
On that holiday.
I promise you they do.
Okay, all right,
For better
sounds
or for
good.
worse.
Okay, well, let's add that into the list, and I'm sure we'll hear about that later, although it sounds very self-explanatory. So if you're a short filmmaker, then maybe we can... I'll tell you this, as when it comes to short films, I've been involved in building sets for those things, and they're very involved. It's a really interesting process to build something where you have to be able to remove a wall or where you have to be able to put, unique cameras in weird places. So it's actually kind of a relevant topic there, Max. But today, let's see, I'm looking at our list. So we're doing something a little different today, you guys. In lieu of great moments in building history, this is sort of a more general conversation about why barns are red, or the tradition of barns, you could say, the noble tradition of barns. Sometimes we just take things for granted and we don't realize there's actually function behind behind that. So it's sort of a wide-ranging discussion. Well, we haven't done this in a while. We're going to talk about, we're going to have a design flaw segment talking about those floating tables that people are... We've been seeing, though, I get them on my feed like at least once a week.
I even sort of romanticize them because, like, ooh, how does this work? And does it really work?
It works, but...
What's the big but?
Buyer beware. Well, you're going to see, Max, and we're going to even throw pedestal tables under the bus in that conversation. We have a tool tales. We have Allan's Week in Review is very vague, which... doesn't surprise me. Getting information out of this guy is like pulling teeth. All I've got is door handles. That's what my notes basically say.
Yep.
So it sounds like a pretty slow week. I mean, I know it was a holiday week and everything, but
no, it was a very active week, and you'll find out.
Okay. All right. And we got more. I'm not gonna over tease it. But before we get to any of that action, Let's talk about our must-have item of the week, which Allan brought in this. Of course he brought it in because on the side of it, it's got a food reference. But go ahead and tell people. By the way, I'm sorry, I didn't mention this. If you want to follow us on Facebook, go to @ToolTalkRadio, and you can see the post that we made with this item on it. So,
what's the food reference?
Allan's going to tell you in a second.
I'll tell you in just a moment.
So what do we got here?
So what you are actually holding there is an individual dual-headed S-shaped 1/4-inch hex key.
Yeah, we're calling it an S because it looks more like an S than any other letter, right. But so you call it a hex key. It's an Allen wrench. I mean, whatever you want to say.
Allen wrench, whatever you want to call it. And the 1/4-inch in particular of a lot of the stuff I deal with, hospital beds, larger equipment, a lot of lawn equipment, all uses some kind of star bit or hex bit to tighten or loosen handles, grips, wheels, all that kind of stuff. And the 1/4-inch is a big hex, but it's got some power.
It's very big,
yeah, but it's got some power behind it. The problem is when you're using just a regular hex key, they're tiny. You just don't have a lot of grip on them. And if you're using a little hex kit like I usually carry, you really don't have room to get your hand up in something. That particular unit, because of the little gentle 45-degree angle off on the hexes, you can get your fingers in there and crank down on something without busting your knuckles.
Right.
And, it's also a little bit longer than average. So if you are reaching back up underneath, because that's where, we all know that's where you're going to hide the adjustment, right?
Right.
It's back up under and hidden. And you can actually get that up in there, get it firmly seated because of the angle, and still have enough to get a grip on and crank it around and either bust it loose or tighten it up.
Well, on the side of it, it's got two things that it says. So on one side, it says food waste disposer, And now that I'm thinking of it, the last time I bought a garbage disposal, it came with one of these wrenches.
Yes, it did.
But now that I just don't remember where I used it. Was it the attachment that goes to the drain? I thought that was
Nope.
Where is this attachment?
If you look in the dead center of the bottom of your food disposer,
Okay.
your garbage disposal, food disposer, disposal, whatever you want to call it, you will see a 1/4-inch hex mount.
Is it that spinning thing like that makes the?
Well, you're going to put that if, let's say, I don't know, one of the kids drops a rubber ducky down it.
Right.
And now it's stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is the device that will fit into that hex key mount and let you crank the garbage disposal back and forth until you can get the fork out of it or the little bit of plastic or whatever's jamming it up. So this will let you back it up a little bit.
It reminds me of with cars. A friend of mine, he had it like he clamped it onto the crank, the main, where the belt pulley is and everything, and he was trying to loosen to see if the pistons had locked up or if they whatever, because you can actually crank it and torque it and make the engine spin. But
Is this more of like a practical question or an aesthetic question? Are there versions of this S-shaped hex key where the bit size are two different sizes? Sort of like, like if you want to have sizes that are complementary, like maybe like 1/8 of an inch along with a 1/4 of an inch and everything.
Yes, there are. And there is one out there that is a flathead screwdriver on one end and a Phillips number 2 on the other.
That's pretty cool.
So in the collection of these longer, and they're about 6 inches long, and you're going to find them kind of in the little, you got to go to like one of the kind of offbeat hardware stores, usually an older local one. And they will actually have a little rack of these weird shaped tools hanging over there. And I got to tell you, this is from working on your tractor, working on your lawnmower, working on any kind of equipment where you had to reach up underneath and get hold of something. These things are absolutely a gift to yourself.
Go ahead.
I was also thinking, too, another way that you can improve the design, if you want to like create a system where what if the S kind of divided in half and everything by unscrewing it, and then you can like screw together different sizes of bits and like whether it be Phillips head, 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, stuff like that. Kind of like how I saw this walking staff where it was divided by these little sections where you could unscrew the sections of the staff to make it more portable.
Kind of like a pool cue that you unscrew.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have that walking cane. 2, yes, they do make them. And they even make a snake head to ratchet all the way up and around and turn corners so that you can use it on your portable drill.
I always really like snake heads on anything. I have a set of mini snake heads.
Absolutely. So this is just, it's just an innocuous little tool. They're like, what, $2.99 max.
This can't be much, yeah.
And
you could probably buy a pack of these for $10.
And like you said, if you bought a garbage disposal, there's one in the box.
Well, yeah, don't toss that. I don't toss any of the tools that you get.
Oh my gosh, it is an amazing tool.
I've never heard. Okay, but on the other side, so on one side it says food waste disposer. On the other side it says self-service wrenchette.
Yes.
I never heard it called a wrenchette.
Well,
and what is self-service? I mean, obviously you're doing it yourself.
Well,
right?
it is a self-contained, a.k.a. it's not part of a kit. It doesn't clip into
that's
something.
What that means.
Right.
Okay.
So it is unto its own unit, both ends. Now, this one is a 1/4 inch on either end. And the one end, actually, if you feel carefully, there's one end that's pretty flat and the other one's slightly concave.
Okay.
So that a lot of times if you have material blocking up the port, you can switch back and forth between the two ends. And usually the concave one will get up in there a little deeper and give you a little better purchase.
I gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. The must-have item of the week. So, all right. Hey, you got shifting gears. If you didn't hear the last couple episodes of a Tool Talk Radio, then let me just say I've been helping my son with this stain on their driveway. Well, they're moved out. It's already been negotiated. The things it's done. But really, this has become more of just an obsession for me now. Okay, I think I told you that the soaps failed, the pressure washer failed.
Right.
We tried
as expected.
We tried the concrete cleaner. whatever, the driveway, the foamy stuff. We didn't put it on probably as heavy as it could have been, but that more or less failed. But I am now obsessed with how do you get these stains out of the driveway, mostly just as a scientific exercise. I'm like, okay, I don't know. I'm thinking heat
I know where
has
you're
to
going
be
to wind up.
involved, though.
Nope, you're going to wind up with muriatic acid.
Okay, because that's what I'm wondering. You say that it sounds very intimidating. It sounds like something that's going to
kiss
burn
those
through
shoes goodbye.
So muriatic acid is the a means by which you can destroy your white whale.
Yes, it is going to be the harpoon he can go after Moby the driveway.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I'm wondering. It's like, and that's another thing. Psychologically, when does it become an obsession? Why is it? There's certain repairs and there's certain home projects we can't walk away from. Like, we are going to conquer this, but we'll have some thoughts about that when we come back. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
This is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio. Gosh, I don't know what happened there. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're just tuning in, okay, I think this will probably be the last week we hear about this, but I'm sorry. It's hard to let go of this. We've been, for the last 3 weeks, we've been going through this odyssey, my son and I, of getting this oil. Well, it's not a oil stain. It's like multiple oil stains off of a driveway that was more or less a pretty new driveway, which meant it was very porous. It was even the broom finish that you see, Allan, where you brush it in one direction across the way you're going to pull in. So it really gives you good traction. However, man, it absorbs stains like a sponge. And there are 2 years worth of baked in oil stains. Everything we tried has not worked. And I guess we are approaching the nuclear option. And so for safety purposes, can you just talk? I've never used, you're saying muriatic acid, not muriatic, whatever.
Well,
the
however you
difference
want to
is.
say it.
Is that the same?
All right. Well,
Okay.
all right. Number one, there is, of course, always packing it with baking soda. So in the non-chemical world.
Well, we know that's not going to. I mean, we've given out all the sunshine and
have
daisies
you tried it?
approach.
Have you packed it with baking soda and left it?
I mean, no, I didn't think that.
Okay, there you
how
go.
is that going to dislodge a? We want to go hardcore now.
I know.
Here.
Well, baking soda has a way of helping to neutralize the acids that are present in the motor oil.
Okay.
So the baking soda, but I mean, you gotta dump that box on there and leave it. This isn't gonna be like sprinkle it on and I'll be back in an hour. You got to pack that down and leave it on there. But
we know I'm not going to do that.
We
what's
know that's
what's
not
the
gonna
acid
happen.
treatment?
So
what shoes do you wear? What do we watch out for? Obviously, you don't want to get it in your eyes or your hands and stuff. So, what is this? You pour it in. You mix it. I don't know. I've never used it. So.
All right. Is anybody out there in a concrete company or anybody that does any type of there's a lot of people that do a lot of concrete design.
Okay.
And they go through and they literally have to strip something down as just as clean as they can possibly get it.
So that the new concrete will adhere to it, basically, I guess. Is
yes.
What you're saying. Okay. All
and
right.
So when you're really getting there, muriatic acid or muriatic acid, depending upon how you want to say it, is basically hydrochloric acid. And in different concentrations, it is good at stripping concrete down to absolutely its basics.
Okay. I guess it can't be good for the concrete, right? Or, I mean,
well, this is something you're going to have to follow certain safety guidelines. You're going to want to wear gloves. You're not going to want to you don't want to get out there and slop this stuff around wearing your good shoes.
Yeah.
And it's designed to now.
I guess I'm wondering how long you leave it on for and everything.
Again, depending upon what concentration you get. So you can go to your local big box store or any good hardware store, and they're going to have, over in the concrete section, you will see muriatic acid there in the thing, and they will tell you what the concentration is. Turn around and look on the back, and it will tell you, all right, if you're trying to etch the concrete, you're trying to put a design in the concrete, then you're going to be waxing it, and you're going to be putting the acid down and leaving it for X amount of time to etch it. If you're just going to clean it, then you're going to follow the instructions for how to put it down, how long to leave it, and how to neutralize it.
Okay. I guess I'm already imagining a scenario where, it's probably going to be where, now the stain has been partially lifted, but now the rest of the driveway needs, I don't know. We'll see.
You may be cleaning
the entire
whole driveway,
thing. Right?
To get it to look good.
What does it do to the grass around the edge when you start? Do you rinse it with water? I mean,
you're eventually gonna spray it off with water, and it's no worse than pouring vinegar in the yard if you use enough water, and it's no worse than cleaning the fins on your air conditioner. The stuff you spray into that.
So by calling it an acid, I suppose it just sounds
lemon
more
juice
hardcore.
is an acid.
Okay, well then, that's a good point. So
now let me point out, you eat acids every day.
Yeah, so, I'm thinking of the stuff like the Joker has in his flower lapel that he can burn through a safe.
Well, that is hydrochloric acid in a high enough concentration.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll keep you posted, and I don't want to make the whole show about this. Oil stain has already stained up our show more than it needs to.
Just call me
Moby the driveway. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, it's become the white whale for us. So, but anyway, all right. Let's shift gears, Max.
Oh my!
This armor's useless. Why do we even wear it?
Oh, you stink! This is the worst.
Yeah, we haven't heard that in a while. So, design flaw. We haven't had a design flaws segment in a while, but this is mostly a reaction to I guess all of us, if we're on Facebook or whatever. I mean, I don't jump in the sewer of Facebook or the social medias where you get into arguments with people about things. Mostly my Facebook feeds have to do with interesting woodworking projects or my Cubs fan pages
or cats
or funny cat videos or just goofy things like that. But I'm sure you've been getting these, Allan. Okay, we saw this. I don't know when we saw this, but we started seeing this trend of these things that they called floating tables. The ones I see a lot of. So basically, at first glance, what you see is a table, and the top in place of the four legs on all four sides, basically it's a chain on each side, and it's like, and then in the center of the table is another chain held on by a couple of posts, a couple of supports in the middle. And at first glance, you're like, wow. This table is floating. It's how is this thing even held up or whatever? And after just a second, you look at it and you realize, okay, well, it technically it looks like it, but it's supported by these little elbows of the center chain. Basically, that's the design flaw that I wanted to get in on. So they look super cool. You could probably do these with rope too. You don't have to do chain, but a flexible thing to secure it. But basically, all of the, I hope I'm describing this well, but basically the design flaw that I'm seeing with these, Allan, is the fact that all of the weight and all of the tension and all of the stresses of the weight of this table, of the weight of the chains, and the stress that's pulled when you tense up those chains is on these little center elbow things.
Yes,
there is a lot of weight on a little thing that, and if it's made of wood, forget it. I mean, these things are going to fail. Some of these tables, they have metal in the middle. Metal can bend, metal can fail, and these things sway too, right? I mean, I don't think it's a cool looking table, but I wouldn't put anything of value on a table like this. I would not sit on it.
Next year, I am going to give one of these to every single person I know that has a cat.
Well, cats would probably like it. They get to sway around and push it.
A cat would love this thing. They'd be all up in it, swaying on the table, swinging on the chains. Oh, yeah.
So imagine, folks, a table that basically you bump it and it sways, and it's going to collapse at some point.
Okay,
So,
well,
do you want that in your home?
A million years ago, I went to the Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum, and there was a spigot 12 feet in the air with water pouring out of the spigot and absolutely nothing connected to the spigot.
And we know how that works. I mean,
There's
obviously
a clear acrylic tube in the center putting the water up and it's spraying out. It's an illusion.
Right.
All right, well, you're looking at a piece of furniture based on a similar principle.
Yeah.
It's an illusion. It's cute and it's funny. I would put nothing on it that I wanted.
Right.
I would put nothing on it that I had any value to. And certainly don't put the goldfish bowl up here.
Yeah.
It's cute. They're wonderful. It's a cool design. Till your, fat Uncle Allan comes over and mistakes it for a chair and sits on it.
Or, thinks it's a nice little swivel chair. Like, hey, I'm going to sway around.
Yeah, because honestly, if I saw this, I would be your fat Uncle Allan that would accidentally sit on this thing and collapse it to the floor.
Yeah.
It's a cute optical illusion, but bear in mind, that's what it is.
Yeah, I think I would stick to a small version of that, where maybe the center, and don't, so if you are going to go this route, folks, just be aware that all of the support needs to be in the center. That's where the effort needs to go. But, pedestal tables aren't so innocent in this discussion either.
No, they're not.
We're going to talk about that when we come back. And also, have you ever wondered why barns are red? I have, and we're going to find out when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Hey, Nelson, he's really hurt. I think he broke his leg. I said,
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're just tuning in, we were talking about, I guess what we're talking, it started off talking about these floating tables that you may have seen online, or maybe you have one, I don't know. We were saying how cool they look, but that the fact that structurally please don't, this table is not strong, generally.
Do not trust this.
Don't trust this table. Don't put anything of value. Do not sit on it. Don't put your goldfish bowl, whatever. But it got us thinking in a broader sense of failure points and stress points that you find in furniture. Before we do that, though, Max, you said somebody texted in. So,
our good buddy, Lynn Neal.
Lynn Neal, the real deal, man. Okay. What did he have to say?
He said, I have a set of these.
A set of what?
Context.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're just,
I know what he's talking about.
Our must-have item of the week was a 1/4-inch S-bend Allen wrench, and I have to imagine he's got every tool under the sun, man. That guy knows.
Especially working on those V-style engines on those motorcycles.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of them use that bolt to tighten down.
Absolutely. So, all right. Well, hey, Lynn Neal, it's always good to hear from you, my friend. Thanks for chiming in. And get in touch. Especially get in touch if you have any tables or any structurally unsound furniture. I'd like to see. Well, here's what we were saying, Allan. Sometimes the emphasis on a piece of furniture has more to do with, like, it's a decorative element. And maybe when it was built, there wasn't as much thought put into what is this thing going to be like when somebody leans on it, pedestal tables, or maybe you have that chair that just keeps breaking in the same spot. Well, it's not a bad exercise in engineering. Maybe even let your kids do this. Look at a piece of furniture and start analyzing where is all the weight actually going. Pedestal tables are especially some of these little frilly ones that I'm thinking of the legs where there's like a lot of a curved element to the leg. Maybe it's got a S curve, or maybe it's got some sort of arch to it. And when you look at it, you're like, okay, you know what? every bit of weight is on this one little section here, and it's not even a solid bit of wood. It's like the grain. If the grain fails in any way, that table's going down.
That kind of reminds me of something somewhat unrelated, but perhaps a little bit related. The idea, well, in my martial arts class, I'm a dojo. My sensei, like, in order to try to check our stance and everything to make sure our weight is distributed properly, it's kind of interesting. When our weight is distributed properly, he might push against our shoulders and everything, and where the weight goes down to is our feet. And so it's fascinating that at one end of the body over to the other and everything, it's kind of affected. Like it goes down a kinetic chain, and I imagine it's very similar to this furniture too.
It's funny you say that, Mac, because I'm thinking you could take, a little 100-pound lady, if she knows how to defend herself, can find that exact pressure point on an attacker and take them down, right? I mean, their furniture and wood and everything is the same.
Well, congratulations, Mac. You just passed Architecture 101.
Right.
Because welcome to the forces that influence how things work. I will give you a wonderful case in point, and this was a 12-year failure.
Oh, okay.
You ready, Joe?
Yep.
So they bought those screw-in what they call stud solvers.
Wait, what?
A stud solver. It's basically a giant metal screw that you screw into the sheetrock, and then you put a screw into the center of it, and it basically is a wall molly or a drywall anchor.
It's kind of like an anchor, although it's not anchored into sheetrock. It's actually going into the stud.
No, this replaces the stud, allegedly. This goes into the drywall.
Oh, so it is an anchor.
And makes you a anchor.
Okay.
And so this is honestly a 12-year failure. So they went down the great wall of their entertainment room, and they put in these lovely hidden shelves.
Okay.
Which meant you went into the wall, every place you want to put a shelf, they put in stud solvers, and then they mounted the hardware that mounts the hidden shelf, right?
Yeah.
So, and when I say hidden shelf, is that there's a shelf you install that your floating shelf slides over.
Yeah, so it's not actually floating.
It looks like it's floating because it doesn't have any form of support above it or below it.
Right.
But there is a support in the wall. Well, let's fast forward a lot of springs, winters, falls, again and again and again. And unbeknownst to the homeowner, what was happening was the weight, and I do mean these were some considerable shelves. The weight was pulling on that sheetrock. And at a certain point, and it was in the middle of winter, I found it interesting, that one of those stud solvers had a catastrophic failure. It's kind of like the first rivet on the Titanic.
Well, I was going to say, because now all the weight is being put on the other
to
and down
shift,
the road. Yeah.
And this whole row of shelves came off the wall.
Then it hits the shelf below it.
And ba-doom, all the way down.
Yeah.
So it took years. It took years for it to fail. But because they bypassed the basic idea of get it in the stud, eventually the weight pulling against the drywall eventually failed.
Right. Well, and I guess, so it's just a good lesson of whenever you're building something, and this goes for not just for furniture, this goes for building a structure or whatever. Just think about where all the stress points are going to be and where all the weight's going to be distributed and everything, and just try to make a nice sound construction. But those floating tables, because it's tempting. I kind of want one, but I think if I were to do one, it's going to be on the smaller variety. So,
well, I think they're adorable. I think they're cute. I think decoratively, especially if you were to put some kind of lighting fixture or make it a feature of the room. But I would hardly want to use it in a utilitarian manner.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Well, we've done our PSA for the day. And if you've got a floating table, I'd love
to see a picture of it.
Forewarned. Yeah. Exactly. So, all right. Well, let's shift gears here, Max.
And now, great moments in building history.
I guess this is a great moment in building it. This is more of a great whatever we're going to do.
It's a great excuse for me to push this button.
Yeah, we're doing it a little different because we're not talking about a structure. We're talking about probably millions of structures over history. But now I don't know 100% if this is true, but I thought this goes back to Scandinavia. I think our Scandinavian farmers that came over are the ones that brought this tradition. Correct me if I'm wrong, Allan, but basically I went down this weird rabbit hole of why most barns are red, or at least back in the day, why they were red. Well, there's a lot of reasons. And it's not just a decorative choice. I mean, they do look pretty bold, and it's kind of cool seeing a red barn, especially with some nice, clean white trim. But there's actually a lot of functional reasons. But there was one reason which made me think, yeah, this probably did go back to Scandinavia. They said the bright color made it easier to spot if you were out in a snowstorm and you're trying to find your way back to your house.
Yes, yeah, well, that's one way.
That made sense to me. So, but there's a lot of function here too. So let's talk about that.
The first thing we have to do is, okay, our basic building materials for human history have been stone and wood.
Right. And if you're lucky enough to have that stuff on your property, you can use the materials you got at hand.
Welcome to homesteading and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And of course, early on, linseed oil became the material that you coated wood with.
Exactly.
Or if you were an artist, you mixed substances into to create colors.
Right.
All right. Well, if you lived on a farm.
Sorry, but I just want to say something. This might be another rabbit hole we go down. I was doing another on that note of substances that you mix in. I didn't realize this. If you ever wondered why, if you go to the art store, why oil paint is so expensive, it's not the properties that the oil paint is made of. It's the pigment, because to get certain colors, to get that aqua blue requires a lot. The pigment is where all the money is. So anyway, I was just going to say.
That's why we poisoned ourselves for years with green.
Right.
Yeah.
But pigment, the reason we have a red barn has a lot to do with that. So.
Well, one thing that is common on a farm is blood. And blood is, believe it or not, an oxidizer and how you age things.
So are we talking like, they slaughter the...
Where it's time for Bossy to become hamburgers.
It kind of reminds me of a more tame version of Roman concrete. Let's just say they source it a little bit more ethically.
Sure, we're going to go with that. I like that one.
That's sort of sinister. You're saying the barn... I don't think it's just
I'm
blood.
just going early.
Okay.
And... of course, it would oxidize into a reddish brown.
Okay.
And then later they went, it's kind of rust. Rust actually, once rust sets up, rust doesn't go away. So it's a much more stable, iron oxide is much more stable than iron. So they would start fine grinding that and mix that into the linseed oil. And basically that began giving you your rust red classic barn, because these oxidizers were mildew proof, bug proof, kept the fungus from growing. Basically, it made your barn last longer.
Is that true with blood as well?
Yes.
Okay, wow, there's a lot to learn here. We're getting a chemistry lesson here as well. But also, okay, well, we'll continue unpacking this epic tale. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Call Poison Control if you're bit by a spider. But check that it's covered by your healthcare provider.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're just tuning in, if you ever drove through the countryside and looked at some old big red barns with the beautiful clean white trim on the picturesque countryside, and ask yourself, why does everybody paint their barn red? Or at least why did they used to paint their barns red? Well, once again, as we probe deeper into this topic, we're learning that there's a darker, more sinister tradition here. Well, it's not dark, but still, okay,
You use what you've got on hand.
Okay, well, here's the thing. So if you're just tuning in, we are learning that basically it's a functional thing. Well, if you take linseed oil and you mix things like rust or actually blood, if you're a farmer, a beef farmer especially, you're going to have plenty of blood at your disposal. Apparently, this is a great way to protect the wood. The insects don't like it or anything like that. Well, here's a practical question for you, Allan. I'm just thinking, okay, I'm looking at the average size barn. You're going to need at least 10 to 20 gallons of paint. If somebody said, hey, I need you to paint this, I'm thinking at least that much. And then however many coats. Red, at least in my experience, red doesn't cover very well. Now, maybe blood has better pigmentation than the red paints that I use, because usually you have to prime it with like a gray color or something. Well, I guess what I'm wondering is, you said you can mix it with rust and blood. Where do you get that much rust? I mean, how do you get your hands on that kind of rust?
Okay, well, let's go back to the blacksmithing days.
Okay,
because we're on homestead. When we're not talking about running down to the local big box store.
Right, because today people are not putting this in their
right.
In their
so
paint,
if you want linseed oil, well, you grow the source of linseed oil. You grow linseed. You
and then
grind
you got to
it, you
squeeze
press
it out,
you oil it, right?
Okay.
And you store it in great big old 55-gallon drums or barrels or whatever your storage facility is.
Okay.
If you've got a blacksmithing shop, you are going to be working with a lot of wrought iron, which rust easily. So if you want to make red ochre, you would make long, thin sheets of this stuff, set it outside, let it rust up, grind it down. Congratulations, you got red ochre. Iron is very prevalent all over the planet. Okay. Iron is everywhere. So red is basically one of the easiest colors to make throughout history, because something was red.
Well, I was thinking, what if you have because I guess what I'm imagining is, let's suppose you're a farmer 200 years ago, where well, you've got those 50 trees over there on the West 40 that are full of these red berries. They might be poison, they might be inedible, but is that something you could just chuck in there too? Or
they did. At certain times in history, as you go back, you can see we tried a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Which is why we wound up with problems later, like, I don't know, we were coating wood in poisons to keep the insects from eating it.
Well, we still have arsenic and
bingo. So, we've made a few missteps throughout history, but if the idea was to keep the barn standing, the barn is still standing. So if using blood or red ochre or rust lets you keep your barn up, and keep in mind, your house was your house. Your house was where you lived. But if you're a homestead, the barn is your living.
Yeah.
Your barn is literally containing, that's your refrigerator.
It's everything. It's your workshop.
That's the chickens. That's the pigs. That's the cows. That's the goats. All the little things you need to eat over the winter are in that barn. So barns originally were big and round.
Yeah.
Because that way you could build something self-supporting so that you had all of the room inside to work with. Over time, it became the classic barn shape, and that was because of snow.
So
the shape of a barn withstands a dramatic amount of snow on the roof.
Well, and the way the arches are, it gives you a lot of room to work inside. But also, you don't have a lot of flat surface where it could pile up and crush the roof.
So congratulations. Trial and error. I'm sure that there was a triangular barn at some point. I'm sure somebody built a trapezoid or a parabola or something, and nature came along and went, you know what? We're just going to knock that down.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. A little history, and it's always interesting what you learn on the show. But
I'm going to throw you a sidebar real fast in 2 seconds, because if we're going to bring up barns, we have to bring up a great Southern tradition of barns being painted with the words "See Rock City."
Yeah. Don't know that one. So see Rock
You've never
City.
driven across the eastern United States and seen "See Rock City" painted on the top of barns.
I don't know what it means though. So
It means go see Rock City. Rock City is a tourist attraction.
okay.
Back in 1935, the owner of Rock City, Garnet and Frida Carter, hired a guy by the name of Clark Byers to paint people's barns for free. Since you were asking me about painting your barn, they would show up and paint your barn if we could see the top of your barn from the road.
Okay.
And he would come along and paint your barn for free and paint in great big giant words across the top of it, "See Rock City." So that as you, the passenger in your brand new automobile back in 1939 or 1944, were driving along and you could see the top of that barn, it reminded you that you needed to go to the tourist destination, "See Rock City."
So it's like the version of billboards in the day. So this was the
He painted over 900 barns in 19 states.
well, at least it wasn't like an injury attorney or something. We see their billboards everywhere.
This was a cute, fun adjunct to the history of barns in the Southeast.
All right. Well, there you go. Boy, we have learned a lot of really important information today. But let's shift gears, Max. Go ahead.
Oh, the humanity.
Well, it's time for Allan's Week in Review, and it sounds like a pretty lame one, Allan. It says door handles. That's it.
Oh, my gosh.
That's
right.
all I got on my notes
Have
from our
that
show
goat
prep.
scream again, Max. One more time for me. Because,
No, don't do that, please.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Of course, it's been the holidays and cooking. We all know I'm a little food involved.
Yeah.
And I have been to a lot of people's houses, and all I got to say to everybody is get over yourself and tighten up those door handles.
Okay.
Oh, my gosh.
That's what you say when you walk into somebody's house?
You know what? I have actually been brutal about it this year because that door handle was loose when I was here 6 months ago, and it's still loose, and both of you are still complaining about it.
Okay. Welcome to the party, everybody.
You and your
Allan's
life
gonna get you.
partner are just aggravating each other over loose handles, missing knobs. And I just look around. You got one somewhere in the house, and it's, a light plate is loose. And all right, one, it's just plain irritating.
Yeah.
Two, you could even be dangerous.
Okay. I can already pick. There's a fire in the house, and your door handle breaks, and you can't get up.
Snatch the door handle, clean off the door.
Okay. Boy, okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I know. I am just being the Grinch at Christmas. But
this is how you walk into a party.
Oh, my gosh. But,
You start giving them a repair list.
It is. It's kind of like, all right, look, here's my rates. I'll be back on Tuesday, and we're going to knock all this out. I find over the holidays, not only do you get to see all the relatives you don't really care to see the rest of the year, but you also get to go visit people's homes. And I find it hilarious to see the same repetitive problem visit after visit when it takes a minute or two or 3 or 10 to just fix the problem.
The problem is it's such a small repair that it's like, I'll get to it. But those are the ones that you never get to.
It's a big repair, y'all. Get it done.
They add up the honey-do list.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, sounds like a riveting week Allan's had. But hour 1 of Tool Talk Radio is in the can. But stay tuned. We have a full hour coming up next.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from Dark Oak Media and our pal Maxon behind the glass. And in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling.
Hey.
There you go, Max. Just leave me hanging, twisting the I was waiting for that
I want some
musical cue.
WWE music moving forward. I'm going to tell you right now, this is lame.
You came
Yeah, you need to get your.
I want to be the heavyweight contractor of the world.
Okay, good. All right. Well, that's what I'm wondering. So, yeah, Max, maybe you guys need to consult after the show and get him some new walk-up music. So,
Or just a belt.
yeah, exactly. So, Jay, it's good to have you here.
Oh,
man.
thank
Thank
you.
you, guys.
He'll
Great
wear
to
it.
be here.
It's funny because one thing that's interesting about Jay is you never know what you're not unlike Allan. We never really know what project you're going to be working on from week to week, man.
That's true. That's true. And that's evolved, over the years. Didn't start out that way, as I've mentioned before. Started out just doing roofs, then realized as we were doing insurance claims that there were a lot more when the tree falls on the house than just doing the roof, that we got into the rest of the trades, and now we literally do everything except for time remodels.
Yeah, well, that's a specialty type thing, and that's
It's a pain.
yeah, and it's a time.
That's what it is.
It's a long remodel.
900 trips.
Yeah, exactly. So you're probably smart to do that. So, well, hey Jay, I happen to know that this is going to be very timely because I know a lot of people are dealing with these problems, but you had you really bailed out some customers of mine recently. So
Yeah, I appreciate that referral.
But and we also have a Critter Wars later in the show that you're going to spearhead. This is gonna be your segment. But
Good deal.
I did have a question. So it was about ridge cap vents because we always talk about them, but maybe people don't know what they are. And actually, you really solved a big problem with that for her.
Yeah. So we're not going to necessarily get into everything going on over there. Just talk about ridge vents right now.
Well, I'm curious about this because it's just an example of, okay, it's a great invention and it's a great thing to have in your home, but if it's improperly installed, it's useless, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that
yeah.
kind of leads to the whole plethora of issues that our friend had going on. And it was all set up by the fact that there's critters in the attic, and she can prove it. There's 2 squirrels in a cage up in the attic.
Yeah.
And so we've gotten into the critter, we'll call it, abatement business in the last year and have been absolutely slammed with it, mostly because of the cost that it's involved with some of the big companies that do it. And we're just 50% or better sometimes price-wise in handling the same kind of work. So I get into this attic as the one you're talking about, and the first thing that we start looking for when we turn the lights on is light. We want to see when it's dark where there is light. And generally, as in this case, the eaves all the way around, you could see way too much daylight, and there were no soffit vents. But the other place, as the lead-in that you just mentioned, was in the ridge vents. And as I looked up, and this roof is only a few years old, I've never seen so much light in all my life. And I thought, what is going on? And so as I got closer, what I found was that the ridge vent apparatus itself was installed fairly properly. The problem was they cut 3 inches off of each side of the gable. So the wood stopped. The tolerance is 1 1/4 to 1 3/4 on each side. So now instead of having less than 3 inches, you've got over 6 inches. And the apparatus itself will not secure into that decking with the nail that it's used to secure it from the outside. And so that was one of the sources that we believed that the varmints were coming into. Most of them were not actually secured properly from the exterior side. There was nowhere for the nail to go. No. There was no decking there.
So it's flopping in the breeze.
So it's flopping in the breeze.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I tell you what, guys, y'all already know this. It doesn't take but about 1 inch, 1 1/4, sometimes 1.5 inches to get a squirrel in your attic. I mean, it's amazing. It's like like some invisible shrinking thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're a lot of fur. Let me just put it like that.
Yeah.
And if you've ever eaten one, then you know there's not much to it.
Well, we know Allan's had that.
Allan said he had, right.
So, I'm not going to do a little onion and brown gravy. They're not too bad. What can I tell you?
So, yeah, so the tolerance on that ridge vent needs to be no more than 1.5 inches on each side. And it's best if you have a long run on a ridge that's, 30 foot or longer, which a lot of homes do have, that you use the rolled ridge vent instead of the 4-foot sections that a lot of manufacturers sell. That way there's no bumps, there's no waves, and it's securely continuous for all that point of time. Now, at the end of the day, as we've talked about many times, they are a real game changer when it comes to owning your home, because, at the end of the day, it gets to 120, 130, 135 degrees ambient temperature in these roofs in the Mid-South in the summer. That heat's got to go somewhere. Until the invention of the ridge vent, if you will, all we had was a couple of gable vents in an older home on either side, which obviously did not work for the long haul. And then they came out with the Whirlybird, which is basically just that galvanized metal turbine that'll work for about 10 years, and then it rusts and stoves up, then it does nothing, and it just ugly on your house. The turbines themselves tell you on the instructions that they are able to, depending on the wind, only dissipate about 350 square foot of space at one time. So you can have in just a 5-6 pitch, straight gable rancher home, you can have 1,500 square foot of space up there.
Sure.
And so you got a Whirlybird on it, and you're wondering why it's hot every time you go up there. They just don't work. So the ridge vents, again, we're going from within 1 foot of each side of the ridge all the way down, cutting that 1.5 inches off of each side, installing the ridge vent. Now your entire attic is vented. And the best thing that it does is two great things. Number one, it's going to let about 25, 28 degrees of hot air out at all times, okay? So now all of a sudden you can go in your attic if you need to and not pass out within 2 minutes, okay? But besides that, since it's not hot like that anymore in the attic, literally now the shingles are not on your roof are not baking from the inside and the outside, and it extends roofing life for another 25, 30%.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because we think about the heat that's generated when the sun's baking on top, but there wasn't always as much thought about underneath. But yeah, and I can tell you, I've been in this attic because I've done a lot of work at. We'll just give her a shout out, Becky, great lady.
Oh, she's incredible.
But I've been up in that attic in the summer, and it's hot, but it's not intolerable. When you have a ridge vent where the opening is like 3 times as big as it's supposed to be, I guess it is going to let a lot of heat out. But I've also been up there, Jay, where during a rain, and you can feel the rain coming in, and especially if the wind's blowing, and leaves and things like that were getting in. So it's a serious problem if it's put in incorrectly. So
That's
I don't
why
know.
that
So did you
tolerance
have to just pull the whole thing off again?
Yeah, we had to start over. Then we had to install. We had to just cut decking about 1 inch, 1.25 inches on each side and put it on the top of where they had cut it out before, to where we got down where we had that 1.5 inches on each side.
Okay. So you had a squirrel problem. You had water. You had too many things getting in.
Yeah. She had a couple of things going on for sure.
Okay.
She had this was the first time I've done this in a long time. She had loose insulation up in her attic, and the squirrels had really just gone to town.
Yeah.
I mean, gone to town. And so we removed all of the loose insulation up there and installed rolled insulation as well. Took care of her ridge vents. Then the rest of it's in the critter part of it, where we basically closed up all those rakes and eaves with metal, which was a real game changer for her.
Yeah. It's interesting too. So so without poisons or traps, you basically solved an invasion. So
yeah.
Yeah, then the thing is, if you don't get those things closed up correctly, for anybody that's had a squirrel or raccoon or bats or possums or any critter that wants to move in with you, once they know your house is susceptible, and I look directly at Joe for this one.
I know.
Because, Joe, you were running little squirrel condos for at least 10 years that I knew of.
You close up one entrance and they'd find another one. They marked your house.
That's where Joe and I hit it off when we met.
Jay solved my problem, and he changed it. It was a game changer for us.
Well, I remember the first time I inspected your roof, and I just walked by, and I went, oh, no. Yeah. Joe's like, well, they were getting in over here, and I said, and there, and there, and there, and there. And so, when you get to this, and the other thing I want to point out of when we're talking about ridge vents, when people look at a house and they don't see the turbines,
yeah,
and you see like a cap across that ridge up there. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's very discreet. It actually kind of looks cool, too.
It looks cool. It's much tidier. And, as a person that's been around this mess for longer decades than I want to admit, the actual difference it makes is just incredible.
Jay, how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can always call me at 901-484-5645. 484-5645. I answer my phone 7 days a week. Or go to our website, which is bigmroofingandremodeling.com. A plethora of information for you right there.
Awesome. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Would you please come help me tamp this down? It's a job that requires 2 men.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Yeah, this job requires like 5. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling, who I constantly, and Jay, we love having you in the house, but it's like herding cats to get everybody back to the microphone on time, stop blabbing about all the stuff that's going on.
It's not near as bad as you indicate.
Okay, anyway. Hey, Max, hit it, will you? Okay.
That's the most foul, cruel, and bad-tempered rodent you ever set eyes on. I just wanted to hug.
Oh, rats in the kitchen, just like that delightful movie I taped in the theater.
That is your favorite movie, isn't it? Ratatouille, I think you go on and on about that.
Oh, it is an amazing
overrated
movie. It is an amazing movie.
Okay. Hey, but Jay, this Critter Wars is actually your story here, and we teased it already, but you really bailed out a customer of mine. Like I said, Becky, good old Becky in Midtown. We love that. Great lady, super nice, but I've done quite a bit of work over there, lots of remodeling projects, and but she has had an ongoing problems with squirrels. I'm not equipped to handle it, but you got in there and you really saved the day, man. So
yeah. As I said, we've gotten into this trade of the deal over the last year, and it came to us basically because of a couple of customers I had in a row who had this issue with varmints in their attics, and they had called some of the, lack of a better word, big box stores.
Yeah.
And they hit them with numbers that were second mortgages.
Yeah. Sometimes when you get quotes and you have no frame of reference, you're like, it can be pretty staggering.
Yeah. And so at the end of the day, this is pretty much what it amounts to. There's only a few different places that a varmint could get into your attic. And you just got to make sure that you figure out where those places are. And here's what we'll generally do is we'll get up, as I mentioned earlier, up in an attic, get the lights off, and start looking for any glimpses of light that we'll see all around any rake or any eave, okay? That's the number one place that squirrels in particularly will come in, okay?
Right.
Especially if you have trees, if you have roof rats, that's a big deal too. These critters don't need much to get in. They need 1.5 inches or so, and then they can get straight through there. So the solution to that, again, is we bring our metal former on site, and we literally press some angle iron out that will go up on the rake or eave about 3.5 inches up under your first run of shingles, and then extend down 2.5, 3 inches on your fascia board that'll block that opening that the varmints had.
Right.
And you go all the way around the house like that, that closes up 90% of those issues. Sometimes they can come through bad or faulty boot jacks. We've seen that.
Right.
Depending on where your vent is jacked into. But most of the problem literally is on the fact that the decking, when the house was built new, did not go down far enough toward the fascia side of the home. And so you've got that opening that it's got a shingle over it, so it looks like there's something there, but underneath the shingle there might be a 2-inch gap.
Right. Yeah, we've seen that, and I mean, it's not only that. If the gutters back up, it's gonna go into the soffit. It could even go down into the walls of your home. I always ask myself, like, why did somebody build it this way? But it's not really hard to understand, especially if you have sheets of plywood and you ran out at with 2 inches to go. You're like, I'll just drape a shingle over it. It's like, I don't know. I could see it bugs me, but it's just I could see how it happens because it's something you don't see.
Think about this for a moment, because obviously the worst part of this problem is in East Memphis and toward the Midtown area, where you've got the really huge, big, overgrown, mature trees.
Mm-hmm.
Think about when those houses were built. How big were the trees that were in the yard then?
Oh, that's a good point. They were just little, nothing.
Yeah, you didn't have that issue. So that's why this stuff seems to perpetuate. It kind of cycles over time. That's the other thing that you just absolutely have to do is you have to get those tree limbs that are anywhere near close to your roof line. You got to get them trimmed back and get them off, because squirrels and roof rats love to jump on those things, and they look like Olympians when they do it.
The other thing, I don't understand. I don't know squirrel psychology or their sociological tendencies.
I bet Allan does.
But here's the question. Okay, well, Jay, you just displaced, a good, at least several families of squirrels. Do they view Becky's house as their house, and now they just got to find a new way to get in?
Allan touched on it a while ago. Look, squirrels, the original squatters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They started the whole thing.
Right.
They get in, they can find a way they can get in, and if they have babies in there, you really got a problem.
Oh, yeah. They're going to try to get back in and
they're going to get in.
The kiddos. So
I've seen them eat through 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch wood. That's the other place that they can get in, by the way, folks, I meant to mention a while ago, is those fascia boards. They can get in a very small opening, especially if you've got a brick home and fascia comes over that brick. You've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Eat just a little bit. We got a way to get in.
Well, I can tell you thwarted them at my house. I have a brick home, and we had ongoing problems for years, and we, knock on wood, it's over. So,
the important thing to keep in mind is we all have stuff to do.
Yeah.
We all got stuff to do. We're living life and all that kind of stuff. You know what Squirrel has to do?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
He has got all day on his hands to go run around and do squirrel stuff and look for a failure by a human.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if we give them an opportunity, as far as they were concerned, they were here first.
Yeah.
And they will be here long after us.
Well, they were probably in the trees when the house was just out in an open field.
And every time they look at a landscaper plant a new tree, they're just rubbing their hands together going, look, new condos.
Yeah.
and as like you said, Jay, I mean, my house is now pushing into the 60-year-old margin.
Yeah. Hard to believe.
All right, that tree was, a 1-inch sapling when they put it in the backyard. Well, it's now a 40-foot monster that's 35 feet across.
There you go.
And unfortunately, so many people, and we just love to pick on the 70s.
Yeah.
They planted the wrong thing too close 40 years ago. And it looked fantastic 5 years later.
Right.
When the house is selling for the first time or the second time, right in that, we're doing the neighborhood type thing. Look, think of how beautiful this tree is going to look in 10 years. Well, it was great in 10. Well, now we're 30, 40, 50 years in. You were talking about North Mississippi, and you look at when that was being built, 80s, 90s. Now today, well, congratulations, that little bitty cute pine is now a 60-foot beast.
Right.
And it's over your roof.
It's 4 foot from the house.
Yeah.
Our friend.
Yeah.
And that's why the raccoons and the squirrels and the cats and the the time and age catches up to everybody, which, I look at Jay and I go, you're in a remarkable business because you're seeing this. I can imagine you driving through a new subdivision just kind of going, And in 20 years, we're going to be in here replacing every single gutter in this thing.
Very possibly.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
So, hey, Jay, how do people get in touch?
I'm at 901-484-5645. That's my direct line. I answer that phone 7 days a week, or go to our website, Big M Roofing and Remodeling. Spell that out. I know it's long. .com.
And I want you all to put that claim to the test. I want you to wait till the 2-minute warning during the big game coming up, and just see if Jay really will answer his phone.
I've never done anything to you, Joe.
You know, you can put those squirrels back.
Hey, can we talk a little bit about trees? Because, well, Jay, you know, I happen to know you've given me a quote. We are going to be having you out in the near future, I hope, to take care of some tree issues for us. But, okay, well, I'm looking at Allan, too. The leaves have fallen.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the leaves are gone. And, you know, okay, knock on wood, we haven't had any ice storms or anything this year, but we're probably going to get something, you know.
Oh, yes.
For the winter. So what do we want to preemptively be doing here and, you know, thinking about with our tree? Like, what are you looking for now that you can actually see all the limbs and everything?
You're obviously looking for, for dead branches.
Yeah.
You want to cut those on back. It's obviously easier to do that right now than it is in the summertime.
Okay, so we'll be talking about that when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
The world is a question, this room is an answer, and the answer is no.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
These mics are on, right, Max? Okay. I don't know what we just heard. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. I don't know what, whatever. I'll move it along. You're not supposed to call attention to things, right, Allan? Okay. Don't look at me that way. Hey, if you're just tuning in, Jay, you wear many hats, and among them, basically, we could say you're all about the exterior protection of your home, remodeling, and also we haven't even scratched on this today, but you are also a former insurance agent, which means you are the person to call if anybody has a homeowner's claim. You got Allan and I both new roofs through that process, and it's a very difficult process to navigate, and that's something that needs to be people need to be aware of as well. It's one of the selling points for your business, man. So.
Yeah, for sure. I started out with an insurance company back in the early 90s and sold I sold life insurance. I sold 6 and 66 bonds, but I was also property and casualty licensed, and sold my share of homeowners insurance through there as well. And at that time, of course, I know nothing like I know now, but I didn't realize that at that time how useful that information was going to be when I became a contractor, that now I get to see this from both sides. What the insurance company's looking at and what the homeowner's looking at, and now I'm that guy in the middle that can put those two together and hopefully produce a check that will help make a little bit more palatable those premiums you've been paying for homeowners for all these years.
Yeah, that's what it's for. So
yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've heard over the last 20 years at least, people say, when I say, I believe we've got a claim here with your insurance company. I'm telling you, guys, they say it. They'll go, well, it's an older roof. I don't want to do that to my insurance company. I've heard it 10 times if I've heard it once.
Right.
And you can't argue with it. You just move on.
Yeah.
I tried it first, but no, there's no sense in doing that. But so what we do is we help folks navigate any type of claim. Typically, a claim to your home is going to come from just a couple of different reasons. Either we're going to have a wind and hailstorm, or we're going to have a tree fall, unless you had a drunk uncle that running, a car through the front door. those are the ways that you have a homeowner claim. If you have a tree fall down in your yard and don't hit your house, that's not a claim. That's because it's just not covered. But those are things that you need to know. But literally, if we have a big storm here in the next couple of weeks, and you notice a few shingles in the yard, you see a little water staining coming in your ceilings, give me a call, and I can come out and tell you if we've got a way to go. If your roof's over 12, 13, 14 years old, just somewhere in that range, sometimes less, depending on the extent of the damage, most of the time, I can get you a new roof and get those stains taken care of on the inside. And where the tree kind of fell and hit the gutter, we can get that section of the gutter replaced. Where the fence is a little wobbly in the backyard because the wind's worth 60 miles an hour, we'll get that replaced. And that's what I do. But that's not something a homeowner does every day themselves. I don't charge anything for this. All I ask is that if I'm successful, that I'll get to do the work for you. The good news is that we do the work for what your insurance company will pay.
Right.
Okay? That's the deal. So everybody's protected there. So give me a call, 901-484-5645. I am a preferred contractor with about 7 different insurance companies, which is really a feather in everybody's cap if you have one of these companies, because I have a little bit of authority in helping get your claim moving the right direction.
Well, you know all these guys too, right? I mean,
a lot of them.
Yeah, I've seen you, when you were at our claim, and it's an interesting process to witness. And we were this, you and I were in a similar boat, Allan, where, okay, you brought your adjuster over, and then the inspector got up on the roof and brought out his colored chalk and started circling things that didn't look like anything to me.
Yeah.
And started marking things. And that's the thing. Roofing issues are so, for the average homeowner, okay, well, if a giant tree limb falls through your house, that's pretty obvious. But there's a lot of things on your roof that you look at and it's like, well, I don't see anything, but you look at it and red flags go off.
Let me run this real quick before you go, Allan, because this is about you. If you don't mind me speaking a little bit about your claim. This is how important it can be to you. When we got Allan's roof done, had an independent agent come out. I've never seen him before, but we hit it off real quick, okay?
Okay.
Every adjuster, I meant adjuster, not agent, every adjuster has a specific amount of dollar authority that he can approve. Anything over would go to the next level. Anything over that would go to the next level. At Allan's, we were getting pretty much what I felt like was a gift, okay?
Okay.
Allan had some ongoing problems. He had done his best to mitigate what was there, but once it's mitigated, it's fixed. It's not really like fresh damage. We got this guy to go over with our way of thinking, and he comes to me and he says, Jay, here's where we are. He says, if I can cut $493 off of this, I can improve this right now and take care of this. If I don't, then it's going to have to go up for approval. I said, well, absolutely, because we were getting all the money anyway.
Right.
I've seen it go south from there, trust me.
Right.
And not get nothing. Cut that check. The rest is history. Allan's got his gutters, got his roof, got everything done. And that's a true story.
Yeah, that's why your experience is so important, because it's like I said, there's a little bit of gamesmanship involved in this too. And it's really understanding the nuts and bolts of how a claim works. It's true. I mean,
me and Allan were just like Extreme Home Makeover. We were all in the back going, cut that check, cut that check.
Well, yeah, but think of the peace of mind that I just know. I mean, I'm telling you, Jay, you and I became best friends. You solved an issue for me that was going to cost me. I mean, I was looking at a $20,000 roof, and I'm like, I didn't have the money for it. That was So I mean, it was exciting. My wife was so happy when we got that approved.
That can make you have a good year or two.
Yeah, no kidding, man.
Well, and, again, I'm going to pick on the gutters for a minute. It took me a minute to walk out there, and my brain was telling me it's gutters, and my brain was putting in the 12-foot sections.
Yeah.
But my mind was looking at it going, there's something different about these gutters. And they're seamless.
Yes.
All right. Now, this does not sound like all that in a bag of chips.
It is,
I'm fussing at Joe earlier about straightening up door handles and cabinet drawers and that. It doesn't seem like a big thing until the handle comes off in your hand.
Yeah, you're never going to make replacing door handles exciting. So
well, it's not exciting, but it's crucial. It's not exciting, but
okay, but gutters.
The definition of happiness.
Yeah,
no one will ever figure out. But I can tell you what makes you unhappy, and that is just little things not working well. The little minor aggravations that add up, that leak at the seam in the gutter. So I got a pretty white gutter, but a black stripe running down the side of my house from where a little bit of water leaks out of it every single time it rains. That's just aggravating. It's not big. It's not terrible, but now I don't have that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that simple.
Yeah. You don't know how great that stuff is, too, until, like, you go over to your next door neighbor who has those old galvanized steel gutters that are in 10-foot sections and just have a coupler with them that are rusted out and they're leaking like, and you look at yours and go, wow, that's seamless, one piece, 40 feet. Oh, my God. And it's not going to rust. It's not going to give you those problems. The technology, again, it's like ridge vents. Things have changed. A lot of them for the better, some not so much. And that's life in general.
Yeah, but it's also a practical reason too, because when you look at gutters, especially the old galvanized ones, correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, but usually those things are attached with the seams are attached with a piece of sheet metal and a screw pointing up, and then you get a couple of leaves that snag on that screw, and suddenly it clogs up, and you could get up there, and one screw is causing an entire log jam, and then it's going to leak into your home.
Yeah, and it's got a galvanized coupler that's holding that 10 foot to the other 10 foot.
Yeah, so it's like it doesn't work. It's not a great design. The streamlined design with the seamless gutters. That's the way to go.
As the expression has been said, is the devilry's in the details.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it is the less looked at, more ignored, tiny little finesse items.
Yeah.
That you look at, and when you're looking at a job, these are those tiny little things. When you put the new gate up, does the gate rub or does it freely swing?
Right.
It's little things that add up to a lot of aggravation around your home.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do get into something major like a roof, or you do have some damage, having somebody comes along and understands the little details. Huge difference between, as we like to pick on Dan in his van, Chuck in his truck, and people that really get a finesse job.
So Jay, how do people get in touch? We like giving out your contact info. So.
Well, I like giving it out, Joe. Thank you. I'm at 901-484-5645. Or you can go to our website, bigmroofingandremodeling.com. And don't forget, guys, not only do we do roofing, we do windows, siding, painting, wood replacing, fencing, patio covers, shutters, gutters, and, of course, we do the critter abatement we've been talking about.
And Jay brings energy and optimism to every project, which is the main thing we appreciate. So, all right, well, you're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Brought to you by Bargain Bob's Used Catapults. Tormenting your neighbors or exacting revenge on your enemies doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg. If you're tired of paying high prices for your medieval weaponry, come to Bargain Bob's Used Catapults. From entry-level pumpkin launchers to trebuchets that will hurl a car engine, you'll find it all at Bargain Bob's Used Catapults.
Oh, yeah. You use those guys regularly, don't you, Jay? That's how you get your equipment to the job site.
I didn't know that stuff was available.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorson with Doors, Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, and our pal Max over there behind the glass, and in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. Jay wears a lot of hats, really, he's all about the exterior protection of your home. And in a minute, we're even going to talk about tree health and what Jay can do to help you with that. Before we get to that, though, we do want to talk about our good friends at Brown Refrigeration. It's that time. Well, it's funny. Now that I think of it, I always say that it's that time of year. It's always that time of year with your HVAC system, except for like the 5 days a year where you just open the windows and you don't need any heat or any air conditioning going. But
those are nice. Those are nice.
Those are the great days. But it's important, especially here in the Mid-South, with having properly conditioned air. And there's nobody better than our good friends over at Brown Refrigeration. They use Train systems. They also use the Remy Halo system, which produces cleaning particulates, which is really an interesting technology. It doesn't just put out clean air. Every molecule of that air cleans the surface it hits on. Talk about getting, value for your dollar. It's like, and the Remy Halo system is not all that of an expensive upgrade. Everybody should look into getting that. Also, it's important to keep your air ducts clean. Brown Refrigeration can handle that, no problem. And having your HVAC company, it's a relationship. This is an ongoing thing. Just like when you find a good auto mechanic, you bring your car in for regular checkups and tune-ups. Well, it's the same with your HVAC system. It's a good idea to get Brown Refrigeration out to your home at least once a year, maybe once or twice a year, and look over your system. They can give it a tune-up. They can do a diagnosis and anticipate any problems in the future. We love the folks over at Brown Refrigeration. Great work, great business culture, and they answer their phones, which we always appreciate. You can give them a call at 901-362-1881 or go to their website, brownref.com. Well, Jay, you were out at my home a few months ago giving us a quote because I said coming up we're going to start budgeting for some tree removal and getting some tree. So we've got some trees that are basically hanging over the home, and it's just we need that dealt with. And I was really glad to hear that that's something you guys offer as well. So
yeah, we do a lot of tree work, and I'll tell you, kind of like the critter abatement. You call one of these guys that got all the 4 trucks that are going to show up, and the boom trucks and lifts and 15 guys, and then get a price from me. I got a good feeling you give me an opportunity. I mean, it's enormous. I've seen a tree cost $15,000 to bring down.
Oh yeah.
I'm always 40 to 50% less of the big box guys.
Well, and of course, so now, Allan, I'm looking at you because, especially here, like you said, in the Midtown area or East Memphis, we have these trees. Well, I don't know anything about plants. If I'm looking at a tree, I can't tell a healthy tree from an unhealthy tree. Right. We don't want to wait till the thing falls on our house or our power line. So now that a lot of the leaves are gone, what are some things we should start paying attention to? So
okay, well, one, how many limbs are in your front yard? Let's just start with how many small limbs. And if you've got a few, you got a big tree out there, especially a big oak, pecan, or any of the big hardwoods, you're always going to have some deadfall. That is just part and parcel. Are you getting a lot of it? That's a big indicator. 2, you walk out and look up at the tree, and I'm going to tell you, dark green is not a bad color. If it's got moss, ferns, we're even far enough south, occasionally you see Spanish moss, and we definitely have mistletoe in the area.
Oh, okay.
You walk out there and you see the little green ball around a branch, that's mistletoe. You're perfectly fine. What you're really looking for now is color and weird shapes.
Okay.
Because if you walk out there...
What do you mean weird shapes? Like?
Well, I'm going to explain that.
Okay.
Because we have a very popular and actually very medicinally useful mushroom called a turkey tail. And a turkey tail is exactly that. It is a half circle and has little brown wedges in it. But the turkey tail grows on decaying wood.
Jay, you make turkey tail stew, don't you?
Yeah,
when we can find it.
Yeah, okay.
Well, you're about to find a lot of it, let me tell you. But if you walk out there and you see these little semicircle ridges, all right, semicircle ridges are not a part of your tree. That is something growing on it. Or if you see brighter colors, especially yellows, these are members of the fungus family that grow on decaying wood.
Funny you should mention that, Allan. We have a limb. Now, it's not a massive limb, but it was a good 6 inches in diameter. And I came home the other day after a rain, and it was laying, it was like an 8-foot limb.
Right.
But it had it had like a whole row of like these mushrooms. It looked like the Sydney Orchestra or the Sydney Opera House or something on there. But you couldn't see it from down below. It was facing the sun.
Right. It was up. But if you walk around the tree without the leaves on it now, the other thing is, do you have any limbs caught up on other limbs? That is when you really seriously need somebody to come out and abate that. Because what you have is what I like to call an inheritance enhancer.
Okay.
Translation, you have a really giant limb that's ready to fall on somebody at any time.
Okay. So when you say leaning, are you saying it's growing into another one or it's just resting on top?
If you look at and you see a weird angle, all trees have a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And when something does not match the pattern, even though you can't necessarily see the whole picture, if something's at a weird angle, that means you may have a branch that is broken off higher up and is now laying across other branches and hasn't fallen to the ground yet.
I think we've in the past you've talked about
yes.
Okay, if a branch is growing out horizontally, that's bad. If it's growing up kind of like at an angle towards the sun at a Y, almost like
it's beautiful.
A 45-degree angle is great. A 90-degree angle
is bad.
Right.
And a right angle where a branch is just laying weird in the tree, that is super bad.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this then. If a branch falls out in the woods and there's nobody there to hear it, does it make a sound?
Does it make a sound or a noise? It does make a sound.
Heard that one in a long
it doesn't
time.
make a noise.
Okay.
So the other thing to look at the bark. Is it cracked? Do you see gaps? On a nice warm day like yesterday, do you see a lot of black ants running up and down the tree? Because the ants aren't eating the tree. Don't blame the ants. They're just moving in to where there's decaying wood. And if you see sawdust around the base of your tree, chances are you've got termites, wood borers, and if you look at the tree and it's just starting to look scraggy.
Yeah.
Just chances are it's dying. It's at the end of its existence. You probably want to have it looked at, especially if it's leaning.
Right.
I'm
Walk
impressed
out there
with your
and-
tree knowledge, Allan, I'll be honest.
Well, hey, before we get out of here, Jay, you handle tree work as well, so there's no reason not to call Jay Hill. So one more time, how do they get
let's
in touch
clear
with
that up. I know nothing like Allan knows about what's living and dying and all that.
But you have my number.
I've got it.
You know how to chop them off.
If you want it chopped off, get it trimmed up. That's what I do. But guys, call me at 901-484-5645. That's my personal number. Love to hear from you. We can take on a little bit of work right now. Again, remember, it's not just roofing, windows, siding, painting, wood replacement, gutters, shutters, patio covers, fencing, and critter abatement.
There you go. Well, you've been listening to another action-packed episode of Tool Talk Radio, but it's in the can and over to the archives. So on behalf of my buddy, Allan Gilbreth, our pal Max over there behind the glass, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.